We have not forgotten about James Bond and the need to fill the role, as actor Daniel Craig is now completed his journey as 007. Today we have news about someone who could be picking up this mantle and some details behind how the meeting went. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much more. I'm your host Chris, and one of the world's most iconic franchises and the most iconic role in that franchise are up for grabs. In fact, 2023 there are a lot of openings across many franchises, including Superman, possibly Pirates of the Caribbean, and even potentially still the Fantastic Four, who have not had an official cast announced. But on top of all of those exciting roles that need to be filled, we also have 007 James Bond. And we're going to follow and read this report that talks about Aaron Taylor-Johnson's meeting with Barbara Broccoli about potentially playing that role. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other major movie and television news updates happening daily here on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those are in the description down below. Now I have to ask the mandatory question, and today it is: who would you like to see play James Bond in the new era? Following Daniel Craig moving forward, there have been a lot of names thrown around and a lot of rumors as to who it could be. Man, woman, white, black, many different options, and I would love to hear who you guys would like to see play that role. And at the end of the video, I'll tell you who personally I would be most excited to see play that role. But first, let's talk about Aaron Taylor-Johnson. You will know him from a lot of different roles, but probably the most popular role he's played is going to be Quicksilver in Age of Ultron.
You didn't see that coming?
And that is our familiarity with Aaron Taylor-Johnson. We have an agency sheet which is breaking down a lot of roles that are up for grabs right now and different types of behind the scenes stuff that happens for actors. And here's what it said regarding the meeting of Barbara Broccoli and Aaron Taylor-Johnson. Obviously, the granddaddy of casting coups, James Bond. Aaron Taylor-Johnson rumors are true. He sat with producer Barbara Broccoli and the meeting went well per sources. But while Taylor-Johnson fits the bill, great actor, British, fits the younger direction the Broccolis want to go, also accomplished but not particularly famous. He's about to be a much bigger star. If Sony's Spider-Man spin-off Kraven the Hunter or Universal's Ryan Gosling two-hander The Fall Guy works, Taylor-Johnson might end up, ironically, too famous to take on Bond. Now, this is a very interesting breakdown of the meeting that happened between Barbara Broccoli and Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and it comes to us through the source of an agency sheet, which is breaking down open roles. It talks about which characters are up for grabs. It talks about what will probably be cast during 2023 as hot roles, and it seems like it's some type of note that is given throughout all agents to help their clients, the movie stars, land big roles. And this one specifically talks about several others, but the big point we're trying to talk about right now is this James Bond role and how the rumors of Aaron Taylor-Johnson were not just rumors at all. In fact, he has met with them and he fits the bill in every single way as a younger James Bond, British obviously, which is very important, and he even is not super famous, which is kind of ironic and funny. He has had a few roles, but his big problem and his big worry, according to this sheet, will be his upcoming roles and their success. So the upcoming Kraven the Hunter film and an upcoming movie called The Fall Guy might determine whether or not Aaron Taylor-Johnson is famous enough to play James Bond moving forward. Now, this is an interesting point. If fame is a big asking question, which traditionally it has been, you might say, well, all of the James Bond actors are really famous. Well, yeah, they're famous after the fact. Nobody really knew who Daniel Craig was prior to him becoming James Bond, and that goes for the other actors who played James Bond for several years and then went on to be extremely famous celebrities and actors following their role of James Bond. So it's an interesting thing trying to guess who you think might play James Bond, considering there is a level of fame that is too famous to continue on. This makes all sorts of other questions about fan casting for this role kind of irrelevant, such as Henry Cavill, who would be my pick to play James Bond, because I think he has the face for it, tone for it, the acting for it, he's English. I think he would be a perfect pick to play James Bond. He is a little bit older, I suppose, But the biggest thing he has going against him is that he is way too famous. On the other hand, I would really like to see Idris Elba, who yes is also a little older, but way too famous. These are people who their name precedes them. There are many people who don't even know who Aaron Taylor Johnson is. That is before his next 2 movies come out and potentially put him on the board as a famous celebrity. And I think that's an interesting description, somebody who has been successful, but not necessarily considered famous. It really would narrow down who we, as YouTubers and fans like yourself, of the genre of the franchise would be able to say, well, I hope this guy does it. Because you have other options, you have other names that you could throw out, like Tom Hardy or Michael Fassbender, but the argument would be that they're probably a little too famous based off of what we're reading here. If simply 2 movies like Kraven the Hunter, which, let's be honest, is not necessarily a blockbuster breaking movie, and a movie that I hadn't even heard of prior today, The Fall Guy, have the potential to put Aaron Taylor Johnson so high up on the map that he couldn't possibly play James Bond, well, that is certainly a level very specifically created as quote-unquote too famous. We also have to discuss the elephant in the room, and I want to try to be as subjective about this as possible, and I know a lot of you guys have shared and will share your opinions on the possible prospect of the next 007 being a woman, and them not going the James Bond route. In fact, there were a lot of rumors following the end of the latest James Bond movie that Lashana Lynch would be playing James Bond moving forward. In fact, would take on the mantle of 007 and would fill the void of James Bond, and we would follow her story instead of recasting a new James Bond. And seeing that her character survived the latest movie and Daniel Craig's character did not survive the latest movie, there was a perfect opportunity to take her from her 006 form and push her to 007 and give her complete control of that character. Now, I don't imagine her name would be James Bond. I simply imagine she would be the 007. But the real question is, can you have James Bond without James Bond? Now, the answer is 100%. You can write the story without including James Bond. But will it be successful? I'm going to go ahead and just say probably not. Based off of what I know from what you've said, what I've had many others tell me with respects to the James Bond franchise. It is, I'll call it, a sacred franchise that has had a very specific set of rules and order. And over the years of its many, many different movies with several different actors, it has had success in the sense that it has been consistent. So I think taking out a very important aspect of James Bond, the James Bond, would be detrimental to future success for the franchise. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to let me know who you'd like to see play James Bond, and you can let me know what you think about Aaron Taylor Johnson potentially filling in that void. Thank you guys so much for watching till the very end of the video. If you found it helpful, useful, or entertaining, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.